the NFL draft officially 3 weeks away, I figured it would be really fun to actually make some player comparisons for each and every one of the top prospects in this year's NFL draft. Now, before we get to all of that, make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications for this channel because lately the NFL has decided to hit us with some copyright claims. Yes, that's right. And honestly, I'm not going to be asking you guys for financial support, nor do I want your money, but if you happen to support me with my channel membership program, I will shout you out like my man Owen Gaming 100, who joined as a Mike Mafia soldier yesterday. But what really matters to me more is that you guys are subscribed and have my notifications on just so you could see the content. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We're going to start with a couple of wide receivers, beginning with one of Alabama's best wide receivers, Jaylen Waddle. Now, just a few asterisks before we get to Jaylen Waddle and eventually DeVonta Smith. Bear in mind that this Alabama offense is absolutely unfair. There's so many free plays for wide receivers that players like DeVonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle, and even their quarterback Mac Jones is nearly impossible to fully evaluate. Waddle spent most of his time in the slot in Alabama and is known for one thing, and that is his speed. There's been multiple times where Jaylen Waddle would just do a simple dig route into space and Mac Jones would hit him for a short gain. Next thing you know, he takes it 95 yards all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. And the entire time he was in Alabama, he was mainly used in space. So as a result of it, he doesn't really have the most diverse route tree, which is why I really like this comparison to a Minnesota Vikings Stephon Diggs. Bear in mind, I said Minnesota Vikings Stephon Diggs and not the Buffalo Bills version of Stephon Diggs. Because in Minnesota, Diggs was primarily used in a lot of flats, slants, screens, comebacks, curls, outs, and believe it or not that very many digs. He was an ideal short to intermediate range target primarily because Kirk Cousins wasn't necessarily known for his ability to throw very deep balls. And I expect Jaylen Waddle to thrive in the exact same type of environment. Now, bear in mind, once again, it's very difficult to evaluate Jaylen Waddle because on top of every single thing that we've talked about so far, in addition to the fact that Waddle is in an absolute Lamborghini of an offense known as the Alabama Crimson Tide offense, he only had 141 targets throughout his entire career in Alabama. For comparison, DeVonta Smith had 145 targets last year in his Heisman season in of its own. But for what I saw so far, I like the comparison to Stephon Diggs here. Speaking of Alabama wide receivers, we might as well discuss DeVonta Smith. Now, DeVonta Smith's number one knock on him is his frame. He is probably one of the skinniest wide receivers that are a potential first-round pick that has ever entered the NFL draft in recent memory. However, he is the 2021 Heisman Trophy winner and he is a national champion. And for a guy that is as small as DeVonta Smith, there's a lot of things that he uses to make up for it. For one, he doesn't shy away from contact, which at least during his time in Alabama, that worked to his advantage, but I don't really necessarily know how that's going to help him at the next level. But the thing that really catches my eye about DeVonta Smith is the way he paces himself while he does his route running. His pacing and ability to get open reminds me very much of former Alabama wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Like Calvin Ridley, DeVonta Smith runs crisp routes that look absolutely effortless when he's running them. He has a similar frame to Calvin Ridley, although he weighs significantly less. And just like Calvin Ridley, DeVonta Smith doesn't do a lot of talking, he just simply lets his game speak for himself. But just like Jaylen Waddle, I'm going to add this once again. the Alabama Crimson Tide offense was scary. There were a lot of times that DeVonta Smith and Jaylen Waddle would get open as a result of being one-on-one with opposing safeties. That is a guaranteed home run more often than you think. Now that we got those two wide receivers out of the way, let's talk about this year's potential top wide receiver in the NFL draft, and that is Ja'Marr Chase. Finally, we get to Ja'Marr Chase, who is the #1 wide receiver in this year's NFL draft, at least whenever we are evaluating him. Ja'Marr Chase is notorious for his ability to come down with 50-50 balls and just being a wide target that can extend a quarterback's catch radius and his own catch window. But what people don't like to talk about as much, and maybe this is because Ja'Marr Chase took a year off, is that Chase is a remarkable lateral athlete as well. He doesn't have remarkable agility, but he still ran a 4.38 40-yard dash at his pro day. So when he hits open space, he can turn on the jets and can easily create a home run play into the end zone. For that reason, I'm comparing Ja'Marr Chase to a prime Dez Bryant or a prime Pittsburgh Steelers Antonio Brown. A prime Dez Bryant was notorious for his ability to be extremely physical and his ability to come down with 50-50 balls despite only being 6 feet. Like Dez Bryant, Ja'Marr Chase is a remarkable athletic specimen that can hit the home run play if you get him wide open into space. And both Ja'Marr Chase and Dez Bryant would do this move where they would shield away their defenders and then eventually jump for a 50-50 ball and come down with it. So I think this is a perfect comparison for him. Now we get to a few quarterbacks. And honestly, the #1 pick in this year's NFL draft is probably the toughest person to compare to any other player whatsoever. And the main reason for that is that Trevor Lawrence's game, for the most part, is a unicorn. It's kind of like me asking you to compare Patrick Mahomes to any player that you've ever seen in NFL history. It's very difficult to do so. He doesn't compare to a player precisely. So I'm going to do my best in making this comparison and giving you my rationale for it. Trevor Lawrence has a remarkable arm that can make any throw that you would want him to make at the NFL level. Despite for some lapses here and there during his collegiate career at Clemson, he has been extremely accurate in his throws. Probably the most terrifying thing about Trevor Lawrence is, on top of his uncanny ability to make absolutely any throw that you would want him to make at the NFL level, Trevor also can make plays with his feet if you need him to do so. He can make throws into tight windows. He has remarkable deep ball accuracy. He's extremely deadly as a pocket passer whenever you give him time, and he doesn't panic whenever the first read is covered. He steps into his throws. He throws an extremely catchable ball, and probably the scariest part of all of this is he has a lightning quick release. So when all is said and done, who do I compare Trevor Lawrence to? I compare him to this year's version of Josh Allen, a developed Josh Allen that has the ability to make those lightning quick throws, to throw into those tight windows, and to make those deep throws as well. Now, bear in mind, I'm not talking about the Wyoming product that was drafted in his rookie year. I'm talking about the complete version of Josh Allen that we saw this year. Like Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence is a very tall player, although significantly taller than Josh Allen because Trevor Lawrence is 6'6". They both have lightning quick releases and they have remarkable arm strength. I'd like to say that Lawrence has more upside, but he enters the NFL as a more complete player than Josh Allen did. And this isn't a knock at Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence. This is extreme praise for both of these players. Now let's discuss what many scouts are calling the best overall player in this year's NFL draft, and that's Kyle Pitts. Now, when you look at Kyle Pitts, the #1 thing he has going for him is he's listed as a tight end. He's 6'6", but he moves as though he is a wide receiver, which makes him an absolutely versatile player in any offense, whether you're the Miami Dolphins and are thinking of potentially running a 2 tight end set, or if you are the Atlanta Falcons and want to give Matt Ryan an additional weapon. Kyle Pitts probably compares best to Darren Waller, a player that has finally been able to find his niche in the NFL. Like Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts is an absolute matchup nightmare versus opposing defenses and is too physical for a cornerback to cover him, but at the same time would absolutely abuse any linebacker that is matched up to him. Now we're going to finish off this video by listing each and every other quarterback prospect that I believe is going to be a first-round pick, starting with Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields' number one knock isn't his accuracy, isn't his speed, isn't even his throwing power. Rather, it's his ability to process defenses and go through his progressions. You know who's another player that had that exact same criticism coming out of Clemson? Deshaun Watson. As a matter of fact, take a look at these weaknesses from Deshaun Watson's draft profile. He can be inaccurate, has poor ball placement, has trouble with ball security and throws too many interceptions, has bad field vision, and has trouble working through his progressions. Both of these players are extremely agile. Both of these players have all the physical tools that you would want in an NFL prospect, with one flaw. The only thing that separates these two is as a result of Ohio State University never being able to create good NFL draft prospects, there's this stigma against Justin Fields just because he came out of Ohio State, but I personally don't buy into that. I think if this was last year's NFL draft, you're looking at a player that could potentially compete with Joe Burrow for the number 1 overall pick and is definitely better than the player that was selected at number 5 overall in Tua Tagovailoa. I think he could easily be taught how to read through his progressions at the NFL level, but I believe this comparison to Deshaun Watson is absolutely flawless for Justin Fields. Up next, we have Zach Wilson, who I'm going to compare to, and oh my goodness, please don't kill me because I'm going to justify this very well, Patrick Mahomes. And here is why. I'm not saying that he's going to be as good as Patrick Mahomes. I'm saying he is a very similar prospect to Patrick Mahomes. Just like Patrick Mahomes, he came from a school that we really didn't pay attention to throughout the regular NCAA season. Patrick Mahomes out of Texas Tech, Zach Wilson out of BYU. Both of them are known for their absolute powerful right arms, their ability to make NFL caliber throws, their ability to throw into tight windows, great deep ball accuracy, and ability to throw the deep ball. Both have an ability to improvise, and both are extremely raw prospects, at least when Patrick Mahomes was entering the NFL draft he was, but are good, confident competitors that can end up being probably one of the greatest players we've ever seen in NFL history if they're developed properly. Now, bear in mind, I said if. The only thing that Patrick Mahomes had on Zach Wilson coming out of Texas Tech is the fact that he had a significantly larger sample size. Zach Wilson is a bit of a one-year wonder, whereas Patrick Mahomes had a couple of years of tape for us to analyze him from when he was in Texas Tech. Up next, we have Trey Lance, and bear in mind, guys, we have draft profiles done for DeVonta Smith, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields. If you guys want to take a look at that, I'm going to leave them all in the description down below. But Trey Lance is another very easy player to draw a comparison for, and that is Colin Kaepernick, the NFL prospect. Colin Kaepernick, at least throughout his entire NFL career, was never known for his ability to be an accurate passer. However, he was known for being extremely athletic and having a very physical frame, and so far, that's what Trey Lance has going for him. Now, of course, Trey Lance is seen as the most raw prospect in this entire NFL draft, and if he could work on his accuracy, he could potentially be the best player in this entire NFL draft. But for now, in terms of what he brings in terms of his physical tools and raw skill set, he reminds me a lot of Colin Kaepernick. And finally, we get to Mac Jones, and I'm going to be honest, this is probably going to be the hardest player for me to compare anyone to. And for me, Mac Jones reminds me a lot of Nick Foles, and that's because I believe in the right situation, Mac Jones can succeed. But that's the thing, I don't think he can elevate other teams. I think if you put good pieces around him and give him the keys, he could be the guy you have under center that can lead you to the promised land. But the thing is, in Alabama, he had remarkable talent all around him. He had a world-class offensive line, world-class wide receivers, halfback, tight end, and head coach. So it's really hard to grade Mac Jones as a prospect. People love the fact that he could go through his progression so easily. And Nick Foles is notorious for his ability to pick up the RPO offense very quickly, being so proficient in it that he was able to lead the Philadelphia Eagles to a Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. But when Nick Foles left the Philadelphia Eagles and that remarkable supporting cast and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears, his career began to fizzle out. So just like Nick Foles, I think if Mac Jones is placed in the right situation, he's going to be very successful in the NFL. And those are my player comparisons, guys. I apologize if I couldn't get each and every player. I know I missed out on Patrick Surtain. I missed out on multiple other prospects. So if you guys really enjoyed this, leave a like and I'll come out with a part 2. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.